In a small, bustling village nestled between rolling hills, there lived a humble shopkeeper named Mr. Thomas. His little shop was filled with all kinds of goods: fresh bread, colorful fruits, jars of honey, and shiny trinkets. The shop was always neat and inviting, and Mr. Thomas knew every customer by name, offering them a warm smile and a kind word. One chilly autumn morning, a young woman named Clara walked into Mr. Thomas's shop. She looked around, her eyes lingering on the fresh apples that gleamed like rubies in the basket. Clara had just moved to the village and was trying to make ends meet, but money was tight. She carefully selected a few apples, hoping they would stretch for the week. "Good morning, Clara." Mr. Thomas greeted her warmly. "I see you're picking some of my best apples today." Clara smiled nervously. "Yes, just a few. I don't have much money today, but I'll pay you when I can." Mr. Thomas nodded thoughtfully. "You know, Clara, you're always welcome to come by and pay when you have it. I trust you. It's not about the money for me, it's about helping one another." Clara was taken aback by his kindness. She had never met anyone who trusted her so easily, especially when times were tough. She handed him the few coins she had and tucked the apples into her bag. "Are you sure about this?" Clara asked, hesitating. "I could come back later." "No need for that," Mr. Thomas interrupted with a gentle smile. "Honesty is more important than money. I've always believed that if you treat people with kindness, it comes back to you in unexpected ways." Over the weeks that followed, Clara kept her promise and paid for the apples as soon as she could. And true to Mr. Thomas's words, things began to improve for her. She found a job at the local bakery, and before long, she had enough savings to start a small business of her own. One afternoon, as Clara entered the shop to buy a few items, she noticed something strange. There, in the corner of the store, was a basket of old, slightly bruised apples, apples that had clearly been overlooked in favor of the fresh ones. "Mr. Thomas," Clara said, pointing at the basket. "Why are these apples still here? They don't look as fresh." Mr. Thomas smiled and nodded toward the basket. "Those apples are just as good, but some people think they're not. I keep them here for those who don't mind the imperfections." Clara's heart swelled with admiration. She realized that Mr. Thomas didn't just sell apples, he sold the belief that everyone deserved a chance, no matter their situation. Over time, the villagers came to know Mr. Thomas not just for his delicious apples, but for his unwavering honesty and kindness. His shop became a symbol of integrity in the village, a place where people knew they could always be treated fairly. One day, Clara returned to the shop with a big smile on her face and a basket full of fresh bread. "Mr. Thomas," she said, placing a small envelope on the counter, "I've saved up enough to give you something." Mr. Thomas opened the envelope, and inside was a letter with a simple but powerful message: "Thank you for teaching me the true meaning of honesty." Mr. Thomas read the letter and smiled. "I didn't teach you anything, Clara. You already knew it. You just needed someone to remind you." From that day forward, Clara worked alongside Mr. Thomas, helping him run the shop and spreading the values of kindness and honesty to everyone who walked through the door. And in that little village, the story of the honest shopkeeper was told for generations, reminding everyone that sometimes, the simplest acts of integrity can change the world.